Hello and welcome to the Chronicle podcast. This is Samuel Lyon. This is a great one for me. Today, we are peering behind the curtain of the human mind. We have all wondered why we do things, why we succeed, why we stumble, why and how we can actually change the code of our daily lives. Our guest today is a master of those patterns. He's a behavioral analyst who helps elite athletes and business leaders perform at their peak. He's the driving force behind TEDx Black Mountain, bringing ideas worth spreading to life. He's also the co-host of the Pecha Culture podcast, and perhaps most importantly, a father navigating the ultimate behavioral experiment, which is parenthood. Please make welcome the man who bridges the gap between the theory and practice. Please make welcome the unprecedented, the undisputed. Please make welcome Jason Lear. Welcome to the podcast, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Samuel. Very great introduction, I suppose. I hope I live up to it.
I love the fact that you're here with us today. So Jason, you've spent over 15 years in performance analysis, moving from the sidelines of international sports to the boardroom. For those who hear behavioral science and things is just an academic jargon, oh, they're just trying to put in like, how do you describe what you actually do for a living? Because for me, I'm all in. I want to learn. I want to hear because it's like it doesn't really sound new, but it doesn't really sound like I know it all. So how would you describe what you actually do for a living?
I think there's possibly this misconception of behavioral analysis or behavioral science is that we watch people and we're able to predict just based on body language and things like that. And that I suppose there's some things you can do just based on a specific environment, but it's based on your interactions with the environment. And that's really what we're looking at is if you think behavior has a function. So we eat food because we're hungry. We drink when we're thirsty, or we might be. So we think of it around this concept of I'm either trying to avoid something, escape from something, getting a tangible or a sensory input. So I might drink water because it's obviously it's a function of thirst, but I might drink alcohol because it's giving me a sensory response, if you can see what I mean. So it's understanding the fact. What we do is look to understand the function of the behavior, and then you can create what we call there's a term I think that a lot of people would use is manipulation. You can create an environment that manipulates the behavior that you want. There was an amazing book written by Sunstein and Thalia called Nudge, and it sort of changed the language around what we do. So we talk about it now in nudging people towards a behavior. So we'll determine what the behavior is we want, and we'll map out a path towards that. If there are challenges in environments and behaviors, we can look at those behaviors and try and source why they're happening, because we spend way too much time at what we call outcome. We try to fix. I don't want you to do that, so I try to tell you or fix it or coercively challenge that behavior. Whereas realistically, there's something in the feed of that behavior that could just be nudged in a different direction and you get the outcome that you want. So what we tend to do is, I suppose the easiest way to describe it is behavioral mapping. Look at the GPS of where we are, where we want to go, or and then look at what's happening within that. And we look at that from data points. What data can we collect about it, or what are we already collecting? We'll also look at it from a psychological. So what are the psychological barriers? What is it in you as an individual? Are you saying to yourself, I can't do that. That's too hard for me. Those sorts of things that are in there. So the psychological barriers that are in there. We look at structural barriers. So if I'm trying to get somebody to sign up to a product or sign up to a website, then we'll map, well, they're sitting in the house doing nothing at the moment. I want them to click and fill out and sign up to my newsletter. We will look at that journey and say, well, your process is too clunky. You ask for their phone number, but people don't want to give out their phone number. So you're going to have a massive drop-off rate. So we call that a friction point. So then we look at that as a structural barrier. So then we look at the opportunities below those barriers to say, right, can we put something in there to make the behavior more likely, or can we take something away that will make the behavior more likely? So it's just a game of friction, is the easiest way to describe it. We put friction in, pull friction out at the right moments to get the behavior we want. So the truth is, and I had the great pleasure of speaking at a conference yesterday. One of the things I talk about is the environment wins. So why we see a lot of the behaviors, because the environmental conditions that you are in at this time and moment. So why do elite athletes perform at those unbelievable sustained levels of performance? Well, what happened was they were in an environment and they showed promise, but they only become elite athletes when they went into an elite environment. They don't get to that, they get pulled in. So they get better and better when the environment gets better and better at shaping that behavior. So the reason, some of the best athletes in the world can play or do what they do, it's because of what's around them. They have the best nutritionists, they have psychologists, they have playing fields, they have access to all this. But people show promise when they don't have that. It's then, how do we look at this talent there? Can we shape that to be elite, that they can consistently do it all the time, and when other people are also in that environment with them with those skill sets?
And I really like how you put things in perspective for me. And one of the key points is the environmental effect, because I've always here in our country, you hear it takes the village to raise a child. I don't know if something is also like a thing there. That thing got to do with how you turned out and what you want for yourself, because you can, I believe personally, for me, this is my own say, that you can only dream as far as where you are or where you live. So the environment really matters. And when I was looking into having you on, I was really going to ask about that, because in terms of like translating data into like the human action, in terms of like the environment, the human aspect, you as because everybody, it's a personality on their own. You know what works for you. You know how you need to operate. I just wanted to ask, Jason Saab, what about what is like the biggest behavioral myth that that you encounter in leadership today?
I think the concept, to me, I think the biggest behavioral myth is that people are lazy or can't be bothered, or you know what I mean? This thing that in a leadership role, that person is not performing to the standard that I expect of them,
Mm,
just because they themselves, very few people, if any, go to work or go to where a position of profession to perform badly. I don't believe that is an innate. I don't purposely go in there and say, I'm not going to perform well today. I'm not going to be myself today. So,
yeah.
and I think that's this concept that, we need to get rid of this person because they're not great at their job or they're not doing X. The truth is that you're getting the behaviors that the environment is rewarding. So in a leadership in environment, if you run a business of any sort, or even coaching, and you're seeing certain behaviors within your environment, what you might find, or most likely will find, that those behaviors are being tolerated somewhere else in that environment, and it builds towards other people mimicking, copying, or not being held accountable. And there's this concept at the moment of, we call it psychological safety, that is your environment safe enough for people to perform? And the truth around psychological safety is that we we have confused safety with soft, that it's like all, you have to be nice all the time, you have to be cuddly, and you have to have a pool table, you have to have a table tennis table in your environment. Psychological safety means accountability. It literally means that we hold each other to account, that uh, I'm a leader and my people will hold me to account, but the place is safe enough for them to challenge me as much as I challenge them. And then you get that balance of performance in there. You have to, and you have to be transparent in that environment. But I use this a concept of a flow chart, and the first question I would ask in a business is, if you're having challenging behaviors, are the expectations clear? And the normal response to that question is, they've worked here 3 years. Sure to God, they know what I expect of them. And I'll say to them, I didn't ask how long they worked here, because experience does not equal competence. If you've never trained them, you've never set the expectation, if it's not visible, then how can they perform to the level? Because if you've just told them what you expect of them, but there's a disparity between what they're thinking in their mind against what you are thinking in your mind, then we already have a gap in performance. So if they could turn around and, so the first thing I do is we talk about making your expectations visible. How do you show them, demonstrate it, highlight it? What do you do? How do you model the behaviors you want? So we use a lot of nouns in values in businesses. So we see values up on the walls of businesses, and it's usually about respect, it's honesty, but they're nouns, they can't be observed, because honesty, what does it mean? What does honesty mean to you compared to me? So if we were both to describe what honesty and what respect, there'll be some similarities, but we'll have different versions of what it means. So what we have to do is take that noun and say, well, what does respect mean in our business? What do we expect to do? So we could say, well, in the morning, if somebody comes into the business, I expect you to greet that person. So that now is becoming a verb. It's observable. So you take that, that's a visible expectation. So everything I do is talking about, well, what's the verb in this? What's the action verb within your expectations? How can you say to somebody, communication, we have 4 verbs of communication. We could be talking about that you listen, you send messages well, you present things to a certain standard. That I could turn around and say to you that, look, we have a problem with your communication. Well, you're listening really well, I can tell that. But what I want to do is improve your presentation skills. I now have expectations that I can measure you against and balance. Once we get to that stage, they go, well, do you know what? All that is in place. We've done all that. And they can prove that. My next question is, are the resources in place to actually meet that expectation then? So if you have a particular standard that you've set a person, are the expectations there? Or are the resources there to meet that standard? So if you're using a computer that is 10 years old and slow, but the expectation is that you can ping out 20 emails an hour, then you're going, well, that's a computer problem, not a people problem. So, and I just literally work around this flow. I talk around then, is the expectation punishing? So what I mean by that is that you have people in your organization that they're good at their job. So the punishment is that they do more of that job. So you might be very good at something like sending emails, and somebody else goes to the boss and says, I'm not great at these emails. They said, well, ping them over to Jason, he'll throw them out. He's brilliant at it. Well, I'm being punished and they're being rewarded. So rather than solve the problem that they're actually not good at it, let's fix that they're not good at it. They just load more work onto me because I'm good at it. So I'm being punished while they're being rewarded. So I'm looking at those rewards and going, well, I'm going to start saying I'm no good at this. So can you see how the environment is shaping the behaviors that we're seeing? And this is just happening in organizations all around.
All right, so welcome back to the Chronicle podcast. I have the behavioral analyst, Jason Lear, with me here on the Chronicle podcast. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this. We've been having a whole lot of craziness over here, but we are trying to push the edge. I will continue where you left off. You talked a whole lot on psychological safety and how is now mixed not like misdiagnosed, but like it's looked at as like being soft. And I really wanted like to hear from you, like why do you think that ideologies have now? Because like I personally have a story I would love to share, but I want to hear, I want you to make it clear so that I can listen if it is right in the angle of how I feel I was being viewed, and like if it aligns with the story I really want to tell. On like I wanted to,
Yeah,
if you could help expand on the psychological safety
yeah.
and
I think the concept of psychological safety. There's a lady by the name of Amy Edmondson. She done some amazing research and has written. She I suppose the easy way to describe it, the pioneer of really understanding it in concept of psychological safety. And a lot of that research was looking in the medical industry and trying to understand why certain teams perform better and stronger than others. From there, one of the things they looked at was I suppose, why people make mistakes. That was the easiest thing for them to look at to understand who, if we have a high performing team and a poor performing team, if we look at their mistakes, then that would be an easy place to start to understand, look, these are making silly mistakes or complex mistakes, whatever, but what mistakes are being made? And early in that research, the problem was that the high performing teams were making more mistakes than the poorer performing teams. And they went like, this doesn't add up. You know what I mean? Why would high performing teams be making more mistakes?
okay.
But the truth was, whenever they dug into that research, that actually wasn't the case. The high performing teams were reporting more. The poor performing teams were too afraid to report them because of the structure of hierarchy. So they were hiding their mistakes. Whereas these were reporting them and learning from them. They weren't repeating their mistakes, or they were putting in systems to fix them. These were literally running away from their mistakes, hiding them. They were afraid to go to their manager because their manager maybe shouted or disciplined them. So rather than looking at it as a learning pathway, it was a disciplinary pathway down there, or people's. So this whole concept then of psychological safety was not about people feeling like, oh, my boss likes me, hugs me in the morning, shakes my hand. It's also, we have a table tennis. Oh, we can go and play table tennis. We have, games in a games room. That isn't psychological safety. They're just fads. They're just things that we do. And you could link them to more like a well-being program, which is important in its own right. But that's only a tiny piece of a 1,000-piece jigsaw. The truth is, these people were holding each other to account. The high performers is about accountability. So accountability is that they challenge each other, that my boss might say something, but I'm allowed to challenge it. And the way you get to that place is, I have this saying, and I picked it up, and I've always said, I can't remember the girl. It was a lady that used this phrase, and I can't remember her name, but it's a phrase I've used many a time in training and having consultancy, is if you're a leader, don't be a hippo. And what I mean by that is, a hippo is that the highest individual paid person's opinion is the one that stands. So I'm the highest paid person. What I say is what gets done. And what happens is, if you think of going into a meeting with a group of your peers, but there's a manager in the room, but that manager controls how much you get paid. They decide whether you get a pay rise. They also decide your experience within this job role, how you're going to be seen and heard. If he's the first, or she is the first person to speak in that meeting, they become a hippo. Because what happens is that you now will make your ideas and your suggestions align with what they are saying, because you're afraid, because you want to please them. So you were going, well, I didn't quite agree with that, but I maybe just say I do because I want a pay raise. I want a growth in this company. So you start to drift towards the hippo's opinion. So the hippo should be the last person to speak. So the highest paid individual in that room, who's the decision maker, should always be the last to speak, not the first. And what I mean by that is, you can ask a question, but don't answer it, because people will comply. What we want is to say, because I might go into a meeting and say, right, guys, I'm thinking of bringing on a new idea, a new product, a new show, or we're doing something for TEDx. I'm thinking of doing this for TED. I will put that to everybody and say, look, if we were going to do this, what would you do? What are your ideas? And by the end of it, I might turn around and go, well, do you know what my idea was? But you've actually just changed it. You've got a better one than me. Or we could end up with a hybrid of 2 or 3 ideas. But if I'm the first to speak, people tend then to want to please me. So it's that concept of the hippo. And this has happened in like some of the greatest industrial corporate disasters of the world was because of hippos. You know, you look at the Challenger disaster at NASA. That was because everybody was complying. A concept of groupthink when they'd done the research, where everybody was just saying yes to the bosses. Yet there was one person who was challenging them, but he became an outlier. So he got ostracized by the whole management because he was going, there's a problem with these O-rings. I think that is a disaster waiting to happen. That if you launch that thing in that weather conditions, such so-called weather, those O-rings aren't designed for that. We'll have a field blow by and that thing will blow up. And they said, stop thinking like a manager, stop thinking like an engineer, start thinking like a manager. And he got ostracized. And what did we see? A disaster. 7 people were killed. You know, you look at the corporate disaster of Boeing, where they are at the moment as a business, that is managers pushing down leadership ideas and not listening to their people. You know what I mean? So they've lost the power of innovation. So what they're doing is just redesigning old models and adding bits to them, rather than this concept of being innovative anymore. And that's you lose innovation when you stop listening. So psychological safety is about creating an environment where we as individuals can be held to account. So we have performance standards, but we know what they look like. We're clearly identifiable. We are given feedback on them on a regular basis, or how we're meeting them and how we're achieving them, or where we need to improve. But our management support our improvement. So if they turn around and say, Jason, I think you need a bit of help there, it's not, they're not there to critique you. They're going, I think you need a bit of help. I've booked you on a course for next week. You're putting the solutions in. It's just not challenge all the time. And the problem is we identify performance problems, but we are not putting in the framework to get them to where we want them to be. It's just like, do better. What does that mean? You know what I mean? If you're not putting the system in place to help them be better. So it's that environment. Yeah. It's a huge factor on the whole thing, is that we tend to look at it from a perspective of the person's at fault, whereas what we should be looking at is the systems at fault, the environments at fault.
And you listening to you explain this, got me, where I'm like, you are really hitting it there, because I can say this as someone that has been in the workforce in different industries. I'm 26 years of age. I started early. I knew I wanted to be independent. Raised by a single mom of 9, crazy over here, and the last of them. And I'm 26 now, so you could imagine the 8 other people are way advanced in age. And you have this, like, you don't want to fail yourself, you don't want to fail people before you. And my mom is late now. And I'm like, you should see the struggles of like, oh, I hope I don't want to mess up so she, because if she was here now and you mess up like this, it would be so crazy. And you see how you take this alongside you. I worked out on I worked in the hospitality industry a couple of years back. And one of the conversations we had, during the orientation before we got our contracts to see if we would still sign and start working, was that you leave everything about you at the gate. Immediately you enter in the company, you are a company guy, you are a company girl, you are a company property. So like, if you had a rough day, rough night, maybe your mom died, whatever happened outside, it all doesn't matter. You come in here, you are entirely different. And I really want to talk, because when you were talking about this psychological safety, and you see, I would say, in my own experience, you go in there sometimes with so much anxiety every single day. You go in there every single day, you are fearful of what's gonna happen today, how's it gonna turn out. Like, I just want to survive the day. I'm not even enjoying the work. It's more of like, I just want to put in the work and just leave. And like, can I not have any issues at the day? And you mentioned about like sometimes you know what you need to do, but you can't even pitch it. You can't even ask because you're like, I'm the lowest rank here. I'm the lowest in the room. Like, even if this, I feel this might be better, I need to keep it to myself because you can't even say it out loud because you're obviously, what if they accept it and then they try it and then you get faulted for it because it did not work? Like, it's just like a whole crazy cycle. And what I wanted to really ask was, in the case where you know for sure that as a you're a contract staff, you have no much say in anything, you have to go by what the bosses and the higher rank says. If you choose to be like, oh, even in as much as you maybe you go in there, you winged it in, you were there 6 months, you were there 8 months, you were there even for years, and then maybe you decide to be like, I've tried my possible best to round off everything and you still can't clock it. If you choose to leave, would that be considered? I know in this is a part of the softness side. Would that be considered a psychological safety because you choose to leave, knowing fully well that maybe you wouldn't be able to crack it? Or would that be something where you're like, oh, you're a quitter? Just want to know that ideology
No,
because I've been in
and
that situation.
I think that's leadership. But, you know, you have to understand leadership starts with you know, being able to lead your own life in a effective, productive way. So, like you just spoke of a mother who brought up 9 children. You know, that's a true leader. That's, you know, a mother that can. So the fact that you were highlighting her, you got your resilience from that. You got your honesty. You know what I mean, from a mum who was a true leader within the family network, in that sense. So that's to shape how you behave as well, going out into. So what you see as a social norm within your environment as a youngster, it builds your values and your beliefs and your attitudes towards things. So mum works hard, you tend to see that as a positive. Working hard is good because mum done it. So those leadership skills start to transfer down to you. When you go into a business environment and you're in that corporate environment, and like you say, that it is what we, you know, the phrase that is used is toxic. So when you're in that environment where you don't have any say, you, no matter what you do, it's literally just do it, don't question it. As you say,
Yes.
you maybe have had a family problem and you are too afraid to share that family problem because it doesn't really matter anyway. There's no empathy within the organization. There's a big empathy gap then in the business as well. So leaving that business is you leading yourself in a strong way. That's not quitting. That's, you know what I mean? That's you taking a stance against, I'm not being treated that way. Now, that's the easy also thing for me to say, like for me to turn around and say, well, if you're currently listening and in that situation, just leave your job. You also have to look at, hold on a minute, that is not what you have to look at your, you know, watch your out, because leaving your job could be 10 times worse. You have a family to feed, things are tough. There's so many other elements to that you have responsibilities, maybe that are keeping you in that job. What you have to think is have an honest conversation with yourself. What is the likelihood of this improving? And how do I map my way out of it? What do I need to do? Is it because, am I sticking in this job because there's a skills gap that I want to progress, but I don't have skills to offer a different employer? So go to a night class, put the work in, put the effort in of getting you out. Find you out is the word, what I would say in that situation. But and that out, some people might turn around and say, my out is today. I can afford to leave. I can quit. Then you have your out. But the other thing is, other people might have to find their out, which is going on a night course, going finding new skills, or applying for new jobs, trying to. So it's that concept there. Look, there's certain organizations that it's a sad fact of everything. We can't all be high performing. The problem is that I think we measure high performance in business as the wrong thing. So we measure output, if you know what I mean. So if you have $1 billion sales account, we think, oh, they're a brilliant company. No, they're good at sales. They're very good at selling stuff. Are they a good company is a different question, because I always say, the Amazon, you think of Amazon as one of the biggest global leaders
Amazing.
in terms of sales.
Yes.
Talk to their employees at entry-level jobs. And, this is a company where they're making billions, and you will hear people saying that, it's horrendous to be a van driver. I have to pee in a bottle because I can't stop for toilet breaks and stuff like this. And you're going, now, if you're a company making huge billions in profits, then if I'm going down and I'm out with my friends and 3 of my friends are van drivers, to me, to make Amazon the best company in the world, the aspirational job to be a van driver should be an Amazon van driver.
Okay.
Because if Amazon is such this iconic business that they're selling billions of pounds of product, they're making billions of pounds in profits, but people don't aspire to be an Amazon van driver, they should be the standard in Amazon van in driving. You're making all this money, you should be saying they should be the best paid, best conditions. This is such an amazing job. So my aspiration is I want to drive a van, but one day I want to be an Amazon van driver. But that's not the case. The case is that people, I'm going to be an Amazon van driver until I find another job. It's the case.
Oh, that's crazy. Like, you don't want to have that.
Yeah. So it's the opposite of what it should be. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm saying, is that businesses that make huge amounts of profits, we measure them and hold them up as the gold standard. But go and speak to the people that work for them and understand their experiences of working in that environment. So what you were talking about, do what don't question the production line. Don't, some of the best businesses in the world that are good at people performance and output would be Toyota car manufacturers. If you think of the Toyota production line, they have a thing called an Andon code in the production line, which means that if I find a fault in the work process that I'm working on that day, I pull a thing called the Andon code, and the entire factory chain stops. The production line just stops. And then a team will come out and we'll solve the problem there and then. And then we restart the production line. So I, as a low-level, entry-level worker, I'm on the production line. I can shut down a multi-million-pound business with one pull of an Andon code. Why? Because they look at flow, not output. So the difference between flow and output is we just measure how many we send out the production line. Flow measures end to end. Do they come back with a fault? So if they go out the production line, are we getting 200 warranty claims, 1,000 warranty claims? Because during the build, we were making mistakes. So they stop the mistakes going out the factory. Whereas other people just let the production line flow. So they're target oriented, 100 cars a day. But Toyota are happy to maybe do a couple less because their flow management means they don't come back, because it's more costly to fix a car than it is to send it out right in the first place. And we can look at that from, here in the UK and Ireland, we have the NHS, National Health Service.
Okay.
It's a very challenging, broken system at the moment, but all the government targets are based on output, seeing people, not whether they've been end to end. So they don't measure the flow. So you might have to go to get to your service or find your right doctor. You might have to go through 3 different clinics. So one clinic might be functioning perfectly, but the next clinic isn't functioning too well. So this clinic is good, but all it does is move the problem further down the broken line. Whereas if they fix the flow, how do we get people from there to there? And what are the friction points? So why is this one not working? And fix the one that's not working and allow the flow to go through. The numbers take care of themselves. You will still get the outcomes. What you don't get is as many returns. You don't get as many pushbacks. And it's then that people are having a say. So for me to fix a flow, I need you as a low-level worker to tell me what's wrong. And I need to accept that somebody in the entry-level jobs in our business, the person that fixes the screws into the dashboard of this vehicle, has a massive contribution to whether that car goes out as a good one or a bad one. So I need to listen to this person. Jason, that design, that's an awful design. I can't get that screw in there properly. So they will have those questions live on the production line and solve the problem live on the production line. It's not like keep sending the cars out until we fix that. They actually send a team out and they fix it on the production line there and then. You know, if anybody, go and look up the Andon code production line concept in Japanese Toyota car making. Unbelievable concept of everybody in your business contributing to the 1% improvement every day.
It's crazy because I'm like, for me, that I'm like, I would one day want to have a business. I'm working myself to a point where I one day want to have a business in any way, shape, or form. And one of the things I'm like, as someone that has been working with different places over the years and having to leave different jobs, I'm like, has no one yet want to figure out the number one key in a business for a business to thrive? Yes, you've been able to crack the sales, you've been able to crack the name, you've been able to crack other things. I'm like, yes, you can get there, like what you said about the Amazon, and we're not trying to call them out on this. I just saw an article the
Yeah,
other day. They are trying to lay off 16,000 workers.
yeah,
I'm like, oh my god, you shouldn't it be about the people of the company? Like, is the business is about the people that makes the business stand. Like, I'm like, how for somebody that is not in the line of cut now, how am I supposed to show up at work knowing fully well that 16 people would have just been let go? And I'm like, okay, so how secure is mine? How am I supposed to show up? It's just all of those, like, it want to be, it's as if you are going to work with a dark cloud hanging over your head because you're like, you don't even know if this might be the last time you'll be needed for these services. And it's all, now it's hard where we now have people drop out of doing jobs because they're like, man, let me go crack TikTok. Let me go crack social media. Maybe that like get paid through social media and just rest and not do the daily. Like 9 to 5 is as if it's been eroded.
yeah,
Everybody's like, the year you do 9 to 5, they're like, oh, you crazy for doing 9 to 5. You got to kill yourself because it's all of like the time. Like, I'm supposed to clock into work and do 8 hours, but I'm going in there and my 8 hours, you don't let me go. I'm doing 5 more. Sometimes I leave there 15, 16 hours. I'm supposed to come back the next day. When do I have time for me? It's as if I don't
yeah,
even matter. And when I show up even a minute late, I am queried as if I'm like, it's all of this. And I'm like, how are we gonna crack that? And it's so crazy. That's why people tend to leave, and you seen as a quitter and all of that. I like what you said about that part when you said find your out. Like, you talk about like, am I supposed to crack more courses so that I can maybe leave and apply for something better, or even not better, but at least better from the last one I'm in. And I'm like, whatever your out is,
yeah,
you should, it's up to you to go find it.
yeah.
And that was beautifully put. I just wanted for us to shift gears to the TEDx Mountain. You've described it to be not just an event, but as a movement. You say, as a curator, you see thousands of ideas. What is the one common thread in a story that makes it worth sharing with the world?
For me, the TEDx movement, I think, is just, it's something that has helped me so much. I listen to so many, and I just find it intriguing listening to people's stories and how they try to apply certain things. So for me, whenever I'm curating, we all have stories to tell, and I think it's, can you tell it in such a way that somebody can go and change something tomorrow, that they can take something from your story? So I always say, don't create the soapbox. Don't just tell them your story to feel sorry for you or inspire them. We have enough inspirational talks, but the problem is inspiration disappears when you need it. So give you an example of that. If we think of the landing on the Hudson, the airplane landing on the Hudson River, in terms of Sullenberger and Stiles, the pilots, whenever these two guys are sitting in this airplane, do you think that the minute they hit that bird strike, They were thinking about 2 motivational talks from last week they saw at a conference that somebody made them feel pumped up for 10 minutes. That disappears very quickly. So I always talk about when we have something to share or tell, can you tell it in such a way that somebody can go and apply it tomorrow, can take something from it, that there's actual real learning in it for them. So an idea worth sharing to me is something that somebody else can apply. It's something that somebody else can go away and say, I love the way that was put over, but you know what? I love that process that you used that one. I'm going to try that 1, 2, 3 process. I'm going to try that and see if it works in my life, in what I do. So, life is one big experiment, and that we're always experimenting. So give somebody an experiment to work with, give them something that they can go away and say, yes. So when we are curating our talks, like I'm in 2 weeks tomorrow, we have 15 people competing for one spot. So we'll have 15 power talks, 2 minutes each, and we have some judges. And the instruction to the judges is an idea worth sharing is that somebody's going to give us an idea that other people can apply on the day in June when the main event comes in June. So yeah, it's I love listening to stories. I love tapping into our local community, but also bringing ideas into the community, and then taking or shaping things from that we can actually go away and do something with it. So that's a powerful thing for me. You know what I mean? Like I say today, it's no good saying, like me saying to you, oh, just leave the job. No, what you have to do is think of what's your out and how do you map towards it. So your out could be you sitting down, having a conversation, getting a piece of paper and say, I am currently doing this job that I do not like. I don't see any opportunity. I've tried. The environment is not suitable for me to have input or try to change this environment. So that I need to come away from it because it's not good for my health. It's not good for me personally. What you then have to do is say, well, how do I get that out? So if your out is another job, look at what the jobs is that you want and then say, well, what do those jobs need me to do to get them? If you already have the skills, start applying. If you don't have the skills, go and get the skills. Go to night class. You know what I mean? I left school at 16 with no qualifications at all. I lived in a village in Wales and come away, a trade was your route out. You'd go and be a bricklayer or whatever it was. And I got put on a building site as a 16-year-old and was sort of told you're going to be a bricklayer. And I come away from it as a 16-year-old, as a 19-year-old, I moved to Ireland or a 20-year-old, I moved to Ireland and I started washing trucks for a living. That was I had no other skill to offer, but I knew I wanted out. So I started to go to colleges and I started to go, and I then realized, well, look, Jason, I might've been a bit lazy years ago. I didn't school properly. I didn't have a great relationship with school, but now I'm going to have to suck it up and go back to school. I'm 27 years of age now. I want to change the course of my life. I now have, a master's in behavioral science. I have 2 postgrads in other areas. I have about 40 qualifications in all different areas, but it's because I fell in love with learning. But I knew for me to get my out of where I was, I had to go back to school. I had to suck it up. I had to say, well, Jason, I'm not 16 anymore. I'm not 15 anymore, where I can dislike school and just not turn up on the day. I might not I had to go to college and dislike some lectures just because of the way they were, and I didn't find it interesting. But I had to stick it out in that environment and get through it and find ways of turning those lectures into value for me, and then come out the other side of that. So it is find your way out. Don't sit there and tell me I don't have a way out. There is a way out. You just have to put it on a piece of paper and map your way. What does it look like? So that to me, it was going to college to get a particular qualification, opened one door up. Then I thought, well, I now need this qualification to open the next door up. So I got the starting point. What's the first thing I need to do? And at that stage, it was a thing called there was a level 3 management apprenticeship I done. And then I done a level 3 teaching qualification. And then I started to go through, and now I have a certificate in teaching at university. I have a postgrad in digital skills. I have a master's in, but everything was with purpose. Everything was with, I think university comes at the wrong time for a lot of people, because they leave school and go to university, but they have never really worked out what they want to be or what they want to do at 19. You should really have a provision of, I think at 25, you should have like a 3-year gap in your career, like a career gap that you could go and, the government should fund in some way, that go and do 5 or 6 years of work, then come to me and tell me what you want to be, and then let them go to university to be it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just lost you for 2 seconds there. Sorry.
Yeah. Um. Listen to you say things like that, it really got to me. At some point while you were talking, like I literally was fighting back tears, because I'm like, you are speaking, you're talking, like it's as if you're talking about me. And I'm like, I you were talking, I'm like, just thinking, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done so many things differently. Like, you know, um I'll reiterate again, I'm 26 and I'm still battling the school, because I'm like, at the time I, applied to, for school, I my mom died. And my way of saying, as someone that loves story and also had dreams and all, sometimes it can be so scary. Like you said, in the aspect of school, university comes in at kind of like the wrong time, because everybody's different. So some might figure it out early and then get to pursue what they actually want to do. But I still feel there are times like you know what you want, and then when you get to them, "Ah, I don't think this is actually what I would have wanted to do." And I just find myself in a situation where I'm like, I'm struggling with the things that I needed to do. But this is the one constant. And I'm like, you've always loved communication. You've always wanted, talking and all of that. And having this opportunity to talk to you, and sometimes with other people that I've had to have conversation with and have it recorded and have to work on it. Like, I've come so far in the aspect of like communication and all. And I know we still on this TEDx. I was looking forward to, like, could you like literally share a time where somebody's story during the event actually you saw change the entire atmosphere in the room, and you knew, oh, we got something here. And what do you think that would be?
Last year at TEDx Black Mountain,
Yes.
I think I saw what I would class as one of the most inspirational but changing moments I've ever witnessed in my life. So we had a lady speaking that I had come across through a friend, and her name is Shelley Cowan, who had been bedbound due to a form of a quite severe illness for 12 years, tube fed, couldn't walk, was obviously registered blind, and she had, a few years ago, she started to get out of bed, learn to walk again, learned, I suppose, to talk and present herself as somebody that's come over a massive challenge. So we had a conversation with her, and we said, "Do you want to tell your story on a TEDx stage?" And she said, "Yes, I would absolutely love it. It's my dream to tell a story on TEDx stage." The problem was that Shelley can't stand on her own, so she needs a nurse at that stage to stand prolonged. So we agreed you can have somebody stood on the stage with you. What we had first said is, "Do you want to sit down?" And Shelley turned around and said to me, "I want to stand on the red dot like everybody else." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." So we got a nurse, or she has a registered nurse always with her. So we got allowed her to bring the nurse onto the red dot. And so thinking everything this lady had overcome, bedbound sickness, having to learn to walk again. You know what I mean? Imagine that, you know, in your 30s or whatever it may be, having to do it. So she got up onto stage, and 4 minutes into her TEDx, life does what life does. It threw another, like, if this lady hadn't faced enough in her life, it threw another obstacle at her, which was she forgot her words. She froze and forgot her words. And
Oh my God.
I could see her looking across the stage, and she started to walk off the stage. She'd come away from the red dot and started to walk off the stage. And you could feel the emotion in the room. People obviously clapped, and the emotional state in that room, you could just, it was absolutely airy. And she come to the edge of the stage, and I was stood at the edge of the stage at that stage, and I went up onto the top of the steps, and I said to Shelley, "What's wrong?" And she says, I don't know. She says, "I want to do it." I says, "Well, look, what do you want to do?" And she says, I just want to finish it, but I lost my words." And I says, "Well, look, do you want to go back?" And she says, "But I don't know where I am." I says, "You're at the start." And she went, "Can you do that at a TEDx?" I says, "Well, today you can, because I'm the boss." I says, "Do you want to go back on the red dot and just start from the very start again?" Another friend of hers, or another nurse that was with her, had her speech like laid out. And I said, "Let her stand at the front of the stage. She can prompt you if needed, and we can work that out later on in terms of editing the final cut." When she returned to that red dot, it was unbelievable. So you could just imagine, like, I don't think it was a dry eye in the house. She went back and she told an amazing story, which is on the TEDx platform. Lady, as I look up her talk, TEDx Shelley Cowan, unbelievable talk. And she talks about her challenges, but she calls it the elephant in the room, how, you know, all-inclusive holidays to her means having a bed, but to us it means free drink. You know what I mean? It's in that sense. She told this amazing story, but at the end of it, Shelley was so caught up in the emotion of things and what had happened. She come off the stage and went straight out the door to obviously gather her own thoughts. But what she missed was a standing ovation. Sorry, can you hear me okay, Simon?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. So what she had missed was the standing ovation. She left the stage, and then a couple of times later, or a couple of minutes later, I had said to the host at the time, I says, "Look, Shelley missed her standing ovation. She's now back in the room. Can we at some stage get everybody to do it, stand for her again? Because she stood for us." And I think that moment in that day, everybody appreciated the challenges that this lady had, I suppose, overcome. But we actually, we didn't get to listen to it only. We got to see it on the day. She just overcome another challenge. But there was another, as part of that, there was another thing within that day, because there's a saying that you should never meet your heroes. You know, they'll disappoint you. And we had a world champion boxer who was speaking at that event by the name of Carl Frampton as well, an Irish world champion. And Carl, we had planned this big, massive hoorah for Carl, where we were going to do like a ring walk, you know, up onto the stage. And Carl come up to me and says, "Forget about the ring walk, Jason. I just want to get up on stage and do what everybody else done, just talk." And I thought, wow, what a guy. This is a world champion who read the room, who had realized he didn't need to do that. So yeah, look, there were so many things, but that day I think was one of the most inspirational days that I have ever been involved in. But I think anybody in the room would say the same thing as well.
Amazing. That sounds like one of those things you have to be there to experience.
Yeah. Well, her TEDx, if you actually go and watch her TEDx, we leave in the bit where she fails, So she does. So we allow. She says the first bit, and you'll see her walk off stage and then come back. So we actually left. We had a conversation with her and says, I think that's part of the story and it needs to stay in. And so we left it in, and it is a very powerful TEDx.
Amazing. Sometimes on the podcast, yeah, I try to not come off like, oh, question after question. Like I'm always very interested in a whole lot of things, and sometimes you'll be talking to a guest and then they say something and you're like, oh shit, I'm flipping the script definitely for this one because I would want to, how that is. But like the the crazy thing here is you've worked so hard for all of the things you've had, and the professional titles, all the certificates, the things you've worked hard. You had to you find your own out, and you was curious about as someone that understands the science behavior. I wanted to ask about the dad title. It's not the professional title, like the dad title, the father title. Does with your knowledge, does it make parenting easier, or does it just make you aware of things you might be getting wrong?
I think you, from my point of view, I tend to try and break things down into the why things are happening. So I think your knowledge, in a way, doesn't get in the way of doing things. You just understand why you're doing things, so you become very, very in tune with your own behaviors, if you know what I mean, and what it is that you're doing, because you'll question yourself, well, why did I do that? And then you start to strip back and say, oh, I can actually identify something in the process that made me do that. Like your buying behaviors, and when you're reading advertisements and things like that, you start to learn how people are trying to shape your behavior on the other side of the coin. So I think you become very emotionally intelligent in terms of understanding why behaviors are happening, and why you do certain things and why you don't do certain things. It also helps, I suppose, if there's a behavior you want to do, you know how to map that. You know what I mean? It's what I'm talking about. I know if I want to be able to do something, I know how to get to that point now in a very logical and practical way. Who I need to surround myself with to be able to do that. What environments do I need to drop myself into to be able to achieve that? Yeah. So I think your knowledge of behavioral sciences is very valuable. It can become a bit, it can make you enjoy things like sport a little less, because you become hyper analytical, if you know what I mean, that you're watching things and you're always looking at it based on the chain of events rather than just enjoying what's happening in front of you. You start to break everything down a bit analytical. Yeah. So it's a strange one, I think, whenever you practice a profession, on how that impacts your own sort of behaviors.
Okay. You know I don't know if you could hear me. I just want to be sure.
Clear that. Yeah, clear that.
All right. So I looked at a whole lot of things, but I couldn't help but be fascinated by your time and like working with the Lear training associates. And I just wanted for you to, talk more on that. Like, what's that all about? And like the trainings. And I just want to feel more information on that for someone that might be interested.
So, like, I suppose the easy way to describe it, the day job is what I do on a daily basis. So we have two sides to the organization or the business, which is that it's associate based. So I have what I do in my particular skill set, but realizing they're interconnected. So we have associates in other professions that connect into that organization. So we have trainers in specific areas like leadership and management, but spend more of the time in the management processes, not in like what I do in terms of the behavioral side of it. So it's like these complementary allied associates that all work together. We deliver training and in different areas, and they are everything from bespoke training designed for an organization or qualifications that are regulated by our Ofqual government. Yeah, so I can deliver qualifications in like diplomas in management, in some ICT areas, some in the health sector as well. So we can offer all these different qualifications to people, so we can get you certified. And then the other side of the business is the consultancy side, which is we can carry out research, behavioral mapping for organizations. So it doesn't matter whether you run a classroom, you're trying to design a new product, or anything like that, anything with this behavior, which is literally everything that we do, we can look at that process for you and map out what you're trying to get, what you are getting, and show you the data points, the structural barriers, the psychological barriers, the opportunities to correct or get the behavior you want. So there's two elements, as I said. There's that learning pathway out on the side, which is all associate based, and then the behavioral analysis side of things, where we can it could be anything, like somebody building a website. We can have a conversation with you on what are you trying to do, where are you at, and what are the biggest challenge of people using that website or filling forms out on that website. Recruitment processes. I've looked at recruitment process for somebody. I'm wondering why they're not getting many applicants, and the reason is it's the application form is the friction point. The stuff in the application form, or the way the to access the application becomes a friction point. So there could be things in the system that are creating friction that you don't personally look at, because your job is to employ people, not to understand the process of getting them to the employment, fill out the employment questionnaire. So if your process to that point has friction in it, people won't apply for the job, or they just find that too hard or too difficult or too challenging. So our job is to look at the flow, not the output. The output will take care of itself if the flow is good, because people will just naturally be defaulted into those behaviors. Did you get that okay, Samuel? It was still recording, so I know you dropped on and off, but I didn't stop. I explained the flow, so it might pick up in the recording okay for you.
Yeah, today has been one of those days. One of those days. I'm just getting hammered by the technical because it's just getting out of hand. But okay, and in high science, the Lear training, training as associates, like it's more of you were trying to really explain it there, but the thing I was struggling over here.
No. So the organization has two parts to it, as I was saying. So it has the training side of it, which is associate based, and we're a group of professionals that work together to deliver different types of training, whether that's management, leadership, IT, digital skills. In the health sector, we can train, but we also offer bespoke, like specific design for companies, or you can go down the qualification route that are pre-designed qualifications that are awarded you in the UK, Ireland, and Europe. Or the other route is the research base that we do, where we do a consultancy on behavioral science or behavioral analysis, where we will look at your processes, systems, and flows within your organization, and we can look at friction points within that to help your flow. And that could be, like I say, anything from a production line setup to you just trying to get people to fill out a form on a website. It could be a classroom and you're having aberrant behaviors within that environment, and why those behaviors are, what's the function of those behaviors, and how to solve that problem from a teaching. So I can literally be in a classroom one day, in a tech company another day, literally in a car wash company another day, working at the flow. And it's just literally looking at the flow, not the outcome. So we don't care that you put 100 a day through. Our job is to make sure that that flow end to end is seamless and it defaults to the behavior that you want. So if you're saying, I want people to sign up to this application form, we look at that, work our way back and find the reasons why people would stop or drop out.
All right. I just want to get one information before we wrap. The TEDx Mountain, Black Mountain, the next edition is coming up soon, right? I just want to get if is there any information you could release on that? Like, when is the next one?
So on the 25th of June 2026, we have TEDx Black Mountain at the Balmoral Hotel in Belfast. We will have between 14 and 16 speakers. We just haven't finalized our speaker lineup. They will start to be announced at the end of this month. So we have a competition in this month. Once that person's selected, we start to announce the speakers. We have about 13 confirmed speakers at the moment.
Okay.
So they will start to be announced in March. So they will. So all through March, all our speaker lineup will be announced and confirmed. And then we'll just run a couple of what we call pre-engagement events leading up to that, a couple of networking events, right up to the big day, which, as I say, is the 25th of March here in Belfast. And it's an exclusive event. There's only 100 people allowed in the room, in the audience. That's how, TEDx's and TED events are exclusive. The capped audiences. So it's a small amount of people will get access to the live event. All the recordings end up on the TEDx platform, which is the YouTube channel. There's 45 million subscribers on that channel, I think, at the moment.
Yes.
So
yes.
we have 16 talks on there at the moment through TEDx Black Mountain.
So you said it's 25th of June, not 25th of March.
25th of June. March, we start announcing our speakers.
Oh, amazing. And obviously, this is me throwing myself into the bandwagon in whatever way I could be of value, because that's one of my biggest goal for the year. I'm not a big planner, but I'm more of a goal-oriented person. Like, my biggest goal is to be of value. Where can I be of value? How can I volunteer? How can I, try something new? How can I challenge myself? And I know we're gonna off the recording, I'm gonna try and have a conversation. So any way I could be of value and be of value to be able to put myself out there and to be able to, do something else. I would really want to do that. And I appreciate you joining us. And obviously we've been I've eaten into your time, and
Nope.
obviously with the technical difficulties and all, I just have two more to go, and if I could just hit one, I know I would really love it. So before the last question, this one is one of the ones, like, because I have to share a lot of things down just so that we don't take much of our time. I'm already beating up your time. Um, what have you learned about money in terms of, like, how far you've come, like what you've had to do? Obviously, people, money is one of the most important thing in the world and all of that. And I get to want to ask my guests on the podcast what they've learned about money and what they've actually do understand about money.
I think it's it's two things, isn't it? It's an essential, it's a necessity, but it could also be a great curse, I think, to some people. You know what I mean? That money, we see great wealth in the world. What does that look like from an ethical point of view in terms of how that wealth is distributed? I wouldn't. I don't know how to describe. Like, is there any such thing as a social capitalist? Because I believe in the right to have certain amounts of wealth and earn money, and that people that take great risk with money should take some rewards of that, if you know what I mean. So these people are putting up their houses, they're, everything, and they're taking massive risks, and they're doing job creation and all this. So we shouldn't punish that by saying they shouldn't have more wealth than somebody else, because they're there's so much more risk in what they're doing, and they're creating some form of wealth for other people. They're creating job creation. Now, should there be a cap on that? In the sense, like, is it right that any one man should have access to 50 billion pounds of worth, you know, when we look at some of these big corporates? And I question that as a, you know, a societal, what's the value to society? What do they offer in terms of that distribution of wealth? So look, it's a very challenging question. What I do find is that I know people that have been wealthy and are wealthy, and the burden that brings of always needing to, like, you know, they would literally gamble thousands of pounds to make another pound in a business. So the burden of that, the challenge there to me is, what's the point of being the richest man in the graveyard? So if you have all this wealth and you suddenly you lose your life and you have kids and family left behind, but you've never spent any time with them because you just wanted to earn money, you know what I mean? So it's a very strange thing. Money is a great motivator to us all, but I always say is, think of its cost to power ratio is what I talk about. What does it cost you to get it, and what does it cost you to have it, and how much power does that give you? So how much power does it give you to influence people, but how much power does that give you with your family as well? And if you're missing those bits of family life and enjoyment and sharing because you're just running chasing money, then is the cost greater than having the money in the first place? So I look, it's a challenging question. It's one that we're all motivated differently, but my advice to people is, try and get to a point where you are comfortable earning a certain amount of money, that you're getting what you need from your family, that you feel good with it, you know, that you don't feel stressed, you're not having to go to and run and chase work every day of the week. That if you think, well, if I was sick for a week or sick for 3 weeks, I can afford to be sick for 3 weeks. If you can get to that comfort zone of having money, I think having too much of it can be as big a burden as not having as much enough of it.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting that out. Like, because I always, every single guest I've been having now, I've tried to pose that question, and everybody have different ways of giving the answer, and I get to learn every single time from their explanation. And this is the last one. It's the one I like to end the podcast with every time now. And going forward, that's still gonna be it. If this were to be your last conversation, what would you never want me to forget, and why?
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. I think it's that thing of, don't be defined by what other people think of you. I think in the current world of social media, of likes and lack of connection, lack of what we are doing, having conversations millions of miles apart, we don't know each other, but we're happy to connect and have a chat. We're not doing enough of that. We don't do that anymore. We have mobile phones, so we don't go to the pub and just make a connection with somebody because we've nothing else to do. We go onto mobile phones and we just try and get our connections that way. And then the problem with that is we are getting defined by what other people think of us. So what I mean by that is, you're chasing likes, you're chasing things like that, or somebody says you can't achieve that, you're not good enough. Never believe that. Never ever in your life believe that. If somebody else, I always say, if you haven't something positive to say nothing. You know what I mean? You don't have to pull people apart. um, and it can be constructively. So you can find somebody and say, I don't think you're doing that right. I can help you. So that to me is still a positive, because you're not telling them they can't do it. You're telling them, I can help you do it better. But just to say, oh, you're rubbish at that, you should find another job, you're rubbish at that, that is just destructive. But the problem is, never believe it. Don't be defined what somebody else thinks of you. Find your own definition of life, find your own definition and your own goals, and just go for it. I think that's my key. I think too many of us are worried about what other people think, what other people say about us. You know what I mean? My wife hates going out with me sometimes because she says to me, "What the hell are you wearing?" And I'll go to her, I couldn't care less. I couldn't. I'm the only one that has to worry about it, not anybody else. They're not wearing it. I don't care what they think of it.
As long as you're comfortable with you, like, I'm good with this.
Yeah.
You know what, Sir Jason? Thank you so very much for this, and for anyone that will get to listen to this, watch this when we repurpose this and put it out on YouTube and Spotify and all the both viewing and listening. I hope they are able to take away from the key things you've had to tell us today. And I'm already pitching for a second appearance, of part two of this, but this should be right before the TEDx Black Mountain.
Yes.
I would love to. I would love to continue building the relationship and the networking with you leading up to that, and maybe right before the first event, the March 25th. I believe you were talking about March 25th. So you have like a month and to prepare for the pre-event and all. I would want a redo, and hopefully by then things are better in check. We'll have better conversations. But I love this first one. I love the struggles I had here. I love the craziness. There were times in the country I was like, I can just click off and like tell Sir Jason, can we do this next time? But I'm like, no, I'm gonna persevere because I've loved to have this on, and it says a lot already. You're already teaching me a whole lot on the conversation, from the conversation and like everything we've had going on here. You kept on being there. You were still there with me. You anything that, okay, let's try this one. Let's try this new way. Let's take the headset off. Let's try. Like, I loved everything that we had to do here, and I wanted to really thank you for sharing your chronicle with us today. You've reminded me and all of us that will be listening and watching this that while data matters, the story behind the data is what truly matters and truly moves the needle. The story you shared on the TEDx, the lady that couldn't walk, that is all. It's all. That is what it's all about. And I thank you so very much. And you can connect with Jason Lear on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, all at Jason Lear, at Jason Lear, just Jason Lear. You get all. We'll try to get. I'll try to get the links to your profile, so I will put it in the description when we're getting the video out, and also the podcast to the TEDx. Just look at that space. He puts it. I wanted to talk about the post you made the other day, but with no time, we would love to get into that. But we would love to do that. I want this relationship to go, and then just thank you so very much.
Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining on this conversation. And this was the Chronicle podcast. Yeah, with Samuel Lyon, the host, and Jason Lear joining us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.